Which is the decision you regret the most? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Number 10. My older sister texted me asking if I would want to chat on the phone while she was moving across the country. I was pretty tired from work and told myself I'll text her in the morning to see how the first part of her drive went. She passed away in a car accident that night. I regret not calling my sister. For all you know, it would have happened while you were on the phone, and you'd have spent the rest of your life thinking it was your fault. Don't beat yourself up. There was no way you could have possibly known it was your last chance. What matters is that you were close enough that she thought of you when she wanted to talk. I'm really sorry for your loss. Number 9. The last time I left my wife in her hospital room when she was awake, she was busy with nurses and I needed to go pick up our daughter from daycare. So instead of kissing her and giving her a nuzzle goodbye, I waved and said goodbye, expecting that I would be able to talk to her the next day. No, she was never awake again and she passed away a few days later. I wish I'd waited to kiss her, but she'd been in the hospital a lot, and I had no idea it was going to be that bad. Number 8. Avoiding my dad the day he died. Long story short, I owed him $200 for like 2 months, and every check I got I kept not paying him back like an irresponsible ass. The morning he died, I was sneaking around the house avoiding him, as it was a Friday and I thought he'd mention I got paid that day. I waited for him to hop on the computer and snuck out the door for work. The last thing I saw was his back in his navy blue shirt and his clunky dad white New Balance shoes tucked under his chair. I saw them again about 4 hours later when he was dead in the hospital from a pulmonary embolism. The night before we had a really pleasant talk though, so I try to think about that instead. Edit. Bummed a lot of you out, I'm sorry. So here's the night before to cheer you up. So the night before, he and I ended up having leftover Panda Express and watched a good chunk of There's Something About Mary playing on TV. He kept saying, "You know, you boys could do this stuff," referring to my brothers and me, we're the jokesters of the family, and he was always encouraging that creativity. Anyway, he cried laughing when Matt Dillon fought the little dog despite seeing it numerous times before, and told me he was getting to bed shortly after. He asked if I wanted the lights on or off in the living room. I said it didn't matter, and he went, "All right, Samo, see ya tomorrow," and that was it. I heard his footsteps on his way up the stairs. I had no reason to assume our interaction the next day would be unpleasant, which is what made my decision even worse. Number 7. Mutually breaking up with the first and only woman I ever loved. She was an exchange student from Mexico, and we decided a long-distance relationship wasn't feasible. In retrospect, had I been more wise, more matured, and sought help or talked about my fear of commitment, it totally could have worked. I haven't loved anyone like that ever since and don't want to get into a relationship with someone for which I don't have the same feelings, because I would keep thinking about my ex instead. That was 9 years ago. I'm 31 now and afraid I'll never find anyone else because my life has been a roller coaster and barely have anything stable to show for compared to the rest of my peers. Doesn't help in the dating scene. And whenever I fall for someone, she's taken. The result, have been feeling incredibly lonely for the past year. Number 6. Guy asked me back in college if I wanted to buy his 400 bitcoins for $0.25 each. Poor college me said, "No, I can't waste that much on something like that. That's about $24 million today." Number 5. Not calling my now ex-husband out on his ultimatum that we get married or break up. I wanted to postpone the wedding because he was going through a custody battle, and if he won, there would be 2 major changes all at once for both me, getting married, and his daughter, change of custody. I felt we should wait an additional year to get married, so we could focus on the transition of the custody change first. He said if we don't get married now, we may as well break up. I should have told him if he was that insecure about our relationship in the next year, then we should break up. But I was stupid and didn't see he was just using me to look good for the judge. The next several years were a goddamn mess for both my stepdaughter and me because we were the ones who felt all of the changes the most. My ex-husband refused to accommodate or compromise with either of us on any level. She and I were both miserable in our home. I blame myself for how miserable she and I were simply because I gave in to her dad. Number 4. Leaving a job where I was employed by the state that paid my health insurance, came with a great pension and full retirement benefits after 28 years of service. I'd be within a couple of years of retirement now, and I am not quite 50. Did I mention it also helped pay back student loans and was pretty good money with 12 sick days and 12 vacation days a year starting out that increased for every year of service plus comp time that you banked for any overtime and holidays that you worked that rolled over year to year. One year I took the entire month of June off with my vacation time and still had gobs of it left. When I quit and they cashed out my sick and comp time, I got a check worth 2 months of pay for it. I was really stupid. Number 3. I spent $23,000 on methamphetamine in 6 months. Haven't touched it in 7 years. To give a little more detail on the food situation and difficulties, my grandfather taught me about survival and woodsmanship since I was a boy. I knew most local flora and fauna, what plants are edible and which ones give you dysentery, how to make basic traps like snares, deadfalls, and the like. In the beginning, finding food was hard, even having a decent knowledge of survival. Many of my traps failed repeatedly. The fish-catching baskets I wove together were a semi-reliable food source for a while, along with the edible mushrooms in the area and blackberries. Once I got stocked up and salted some rabbit haunches for dinner, it was a huge relief. Turns out cutting down trees with a dull match-heat is exhausting when you're detoxing and the last meal was 2 days ago lol. As it went, things got better and worse by the day, until I hit a big nope toward the end of my stay. Someone ransacked the cave, my fire pit, and my belongings all while I was out checking my ridiculously empty traps. Could have even been a bear. Shit was slung everywhere. Either way, it was time to go. My spot had been made and I had no desire to stick around after that. It took me about 6 hours trudging through mud and briar bushes before I made it to the town of Yeager. From there, I stopped at a gas station, called my adoptive mom, who brought me to Charleston, where I signed on with Gamble Amusements as a ride operator. That's a wild story in itself, but maybe I'll take you guys' advice and put out a proper story someday. Happy holidays. Number 2. My family not going into the room with my dog when he had to be put down. My dad told me it would be too hard to handle and I shouldn't have listened to him. I was the closest to him, and I should have been there for his last moments. I let my dad know how much I regretted it and convinced him to go in with his dog years later. He's glad he did. I made this mistake. He was my first pet, and I was just a stupid teenager. I honestly didn't even know you had to make a decision until they asked. I was alone and I panicked and I thought maybe I shouldn't watch, so I didn't. They brought him out to me and I immediately realized my mistake. It is my single largest regret. I was so close to Vader and I abandoned him right at the end. It honestly makes me hate myself. Number 1. Leaving work early and then following my wife to her affair meet-up. Edit. Holy smokes. Thanks for all the awards. So far everything has been amicable in the dissolution discussions. She's giving me everything I've asked for save the marriage I had hoped to save. I'll land on my feet as long as she never asks for child support, as our state doesn't care about grounds for divorce/dissolution. Reddit has been an escape for me and you all give me hope. Holy crap, that's her name. For brighter days ahead. Edit 2. Regarding the child support. I have no intention of not providing for my children. The complete opposite. I earn more than her due to overtime. State and lawyer calculated I would owe her till $1,000/month in child support because of that. The way the real estate market is right now, that would take every nickel from me after buying a house and providing basic utilities for my kids when I have them, which we are agreeing to a 50-50 schedule. Even though we will have them the same amount, I would still have to pay her. She can waive that if she chooses, which she says she will. Our salaries are very similar, and the kids will not want for anything with us split up aside from their parents to probably be back together. But if she takes all the extra cash I have each month, they'll enjoy time with mom far more than boring dad. She's getting the house and the small payment. I'm getting my $401,000, which I'll have to steal from to start over. And if you've been paying attention to rent/real estate. Alright folks, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your own story or thoughts in the comments below. We love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next video.